Hi, welcome back to Wrestling Pops. This is Michael once again, and I'm looking forward to another episode here. Um, Thank you again for watching, listening, whatever it may be. And this week, with the news of AEW and the various things that they have coming out soon, I thought today would be a good time to talk about something I went to, something I was a part of, and that is the first episode of Rampage, which, looking back on it, seems like so long ago, and it really wasn't. It's less than 2 years ago, but man, Rampage, yikes! It is. It's really taken an unfortunate turn. And let me start by saying again, thank you. Shout out the Deep Culture Podcast. Shout out Tanner. Shout out Danny. Watch our stuff on the YouTube. Other than just on the YouTube, I'm such an old person. Other than just Wrestling Pops, it's some good stuff. The Hot Ones, Halloween, whatever it may be. Looking forward to getting more stuff wrestling related, but also D&D, sports, nostalgic stuff, collecting. Yard sale season, I think, Tanner, this is about to be his downtime, so looking forward to new stuff from him as well. So make sure you check it out. Spotify, YouTube, here on this channel. So, back to what I was saying though, AEW Rampage. Let's talk about that. First episode, I just had to look it up because I forgot the date. August 13th, 2021. I almost forgot it again. Now, the only reason I remember relatively when that episode was, a couple reasons. One, it was our first day, mine and my wife's. My wife and I, teacher. My wife and I's first day back to work. That was the end of our summer vacation. We're both teachers, and we had to go back for teacher training days that day. And I remember looking at the tickets. I said, well, they're going to be in Pittsburgh. AEW is going to be in Pittsburgh. We went to the 4th or 5th Dynamite in Charleston, West Virginia. And Charleston's about an hour and a half from where we live. Pittsburgh, depending which way you take, road work, all that stuff, it's about 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. So right after work, get off at 3:30, then drive to Pittsburgh. I guess there in time, but it's just it makes for a hectic day. So I remember going through that day at work. It was pretty just, it's the first day back, so you're already kind of like, whoa, what's going to happen this year, all that stuff. And then I was looking at the forecast, and the weather was pretty terrible. There was like severe thunderstorm warnings for Pittsburgh, for the area. And I'm not a big storm guy. I hate severe weather. So when I saw that, I started to kind of like freak out a little bit more. And it was every bit of what the weather forecast that was going to be. So we drive to Wheeling. We stop because the weather was starting to get a little gnarly, and it was like, okay, we're hungry. We still have some extra time. Have about 45-minute drive left. Maybe as time gets to me, maybe the weather will pass before then. Went to Olive Garden, the OG. And we ate a very quick dinner. It was the quickest, I think, experience. I think we were in there 30 minutes. We were in there like 30 minutes. And we were not trying to rush either. It was just a very good Olive Garden, which is saying something. Kudos to that Olive Garden. But it's also a very nice Olive Garden. Sometimes you don't get those. Some restaurant chains, they just don't, don't pan out. Well, great experience. My wife and I were enjoying the time, and we're heading towards Pittsburgh, and like the sky is black. It is just a gnarly sky. And by the time we get to Pittsburgh, that's finally when the sky opens up, and it is just pouring the rain down, which isn't a huge deal because we're there. We're there. So we made it. And we have previous bad experience driving to Pittsburgh in severe weather or just in general. Every time we go to Pittsburgh, something happens. On the way to the airport for our honeymoon, We ran over a nail, flat tire, almost missed our flight. Um, Next year we're going to Colorado to visit family. Big snowstorm takes place on Christmas Eve. Is the first time it's snowed on Christmas Eve in a long time. Just always seemingly luck is not on our side when we drive that way. And we get there. Peterson Event Center, it's kind of hard to get into, as in like parking. Now, if you're from Pittsburgh, if you're from the area, you've done it multiple times, which I've done it multiple times now. We went and saw the Killers there this year. So we kind of have a better understanding of it. But this is my first time ever being there. The parking was a little weird. We didn't know exactly where to park at. It was like the hospital parking garage. We parked there. It was pouring the rain down. I mean, like so hard. We didn't bring an umbrella. We got a jacket. We have our masks. Masks were still required at that time in the building. We have all that stuff, but man, it's pouring the rain, and we have no idea where to go. And no one else knew where to go. So luckily for us, there's like a swarm of, I'd say, 50 people, and they were all just collectively like, how do we get in the building? I don't know how we get in the building. And it was hilarious. Like, I just never seen anything like it. But we're running in the middle of this rainstorm once we get out of the parking garage, once we know where we're going. We get in the building. We have our seats. Seats are amazing for the price. I think we paid like $35 for each ticket. And then you got tax and stuff like that. But we were in like one of the upper levels, but it was like its own like private sitting area. So there were like 3 rows. And I just remember I'm like, holy crap, like this is an amazing seat for this. I can't believe we're about to watch the first Rampage. Like, what is Rampage going to be like? Like, whoa, there's Raw and SmackDown. What if this is like, this is history, which, I mean, it still is. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, man, I'm watching the first ever show of this. I also didn't know what to expect because I heard Rampage was going to be an hour show. It was only going to be an hour. And I was like, okay, so gates open at this time. What's gonna be like? It's pretty much like a house show the first few hours. I remember, um, you see a lot of people you like, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy. At the time they were still a tag team. They come out, squash match. They do a little short match, and the fans are happy. This is when Orange Cassidy was feuding with Matt Hardy. I think they had probably the longest match of the house show period, like the dark period. One thing I do remember about that first Rampage was so funny. We're sitting there, we're watching, having a great time, and I go to get food, and I just am standing there in this line. There's like 3 people in line. The way the concession stands at that venue, they're kind of like back to back. Like there's a concession stand here, there's a concession stand here, so the lines kind of like merged together. They're like right there. It's almost like a blob. And I'm just standing there, kind of looking at my phone, just waiting for the next people to move up. And next thing I know, Alex Abrahantes like runs by, and I kind of do one of these, like, yeah. And if you're just listening, it's me turning my head, but I'm just kind of like looking left to right, like, did anyone else see that? Like, yeah, I know he's not like the biggest like AEW star, but like this guy's on TV. This is with Penta and Phoenix, they're coming out. I think they literally like came out like on stage just a few minutes later. But like I'm like, did anyone notice that? No one noticed. It was wild. Move up a couple feet. One person gets out of line, and it's so funny because like a few minutes later, here comes Thunder Rosa. Like just same thing. Walks like actually not even walk. She was sprinting. Abrahantes kind of was doing like a little jog. Thunder Rosa just runs through, and I do the same thing. I'm like, what the freak? Thunder Rosa becomes women's champion relatively soon after that. I believe it was St. Patrick's Day, so in March. I mean, like, she's a big deal in the women's division. And there was one other guy that he's like, no one else saw that. There's like 500 people just in this one little area, and no one reacted to someone who was like, I don't want to make that seem like it's like a negative, but it's just one of those things where like time stood still. People were so focused on what they were doing that they didn't take time to be like, wait a second, who's that running? Oh wait, that's someone who's about to about to be out there, and we're about to watch them. And it was so funny because my wife, she's not a huge wrestling fan. She supports me and just watches it. But right after that Thunder Rosa, she came out. She did a run in, and my wife goes, I like that one girl who I think she had like a wife beater on. She had jeans and some nice shoes. Um, she goes, I like that Thunder girl, and I was like, well, I just saw her like 5 seconds ago. She was 2 feet away from it. She goes, what? Like, what? And then like, no, that's not true. It was though. I mean, so that was a pretty cool experience. But it's just one of those things, you think about it, it's like, man, they were right there. Like, but it is what it is. So, the dark period of the show, pretty cool. Again, it was like a house show. I felt like I got my money's worth anyway, just by the card that was advertised and the fact that it was the first AEW Rampage. But the dark period, I got to see a lot of my favorites, a lot of other people I like, and that was nice. But then the show starts. So Rampage is about to start, and you're like, this is it. Like, this is the first Rampage. I'm hyped up. And again, we're in Pittsburgh, so Britt Baker. The people are gonna go crazy for her. She was on the card, the main card. But the big thing, and I'm a big Omega guy, which is funny because I'm wearing a CM Punk shirt, but uh, I like CM Punk too, so I like people who are great. It was so funny because the reason I wanted to come to this show was Omega. He's wrestling Christian for the TNA title, and it was like the down, the where he starts to lose the belts before Hangman, obviously. But match starts, show starts. I'm losing my mind. Omega comes out, Christian comes out. Heck of a match, and I mean, right from the tone, like it reminded me again. I made the comparison Raw and SmackDown. It reminded me of kind of like what WWE did with that first SmackDown. I believe there was a title change. There was a title change on that first SmackDown. I can't remember. I want to say it was Rock and Triple H, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I was thinking, I was like, all right, Omega is defending the belt against Christian, someone who's been a proven TV guy for a long time. He's probably going to lose. Which, again, I'm more of an Omega fan, but like that, it's understandable. You got to make a statement on that first episode. Have a heck of a match. I've been seeing tweets lately, ever since the Collision news, kind of showing off the spot where they did the chair spot, where Omega's head like did the sideways thing into the chair. Great match. Turns out Christian wins. New TNA champion, and it's one of those things, like, man, I saw that. Like, again, whatever happens to Rampage, AEW, it's like, man, I saw that moment. That was pretty cool. And, I mean, that moment was just, it made you think, all right, this show's going to be something special. Next, the second match, this is Miro being the TNT champion, which Miro, one of the better TNT champions, I must say. I felt like his reign was a little like short-lived. I think they could have let him keep it a little bit longer. I think Darby took it off of him, I think, but that was one where I think Miro could have had a little bit more. And again, if I'm wrong, if someone else, that's around the time Darby was in there, and maybe it was a Sammy thing, but Miro in the second match he's wrestling Fuego. It was what it was. Cool moments. I believe that might also have been the one where I'll have to go back and look, but maybe Sammy did the contract thing where he came out and Fuego, you're now an AEW guy, AEW, contract, cool. Whatever, like, good for Fuego, and it was a moment, same thing, it was a feel-good thing. If that was that show, that's the one thing I can't remember. But then you have the main event, you have Britt Baker versus Red Velvet, which Velvet, at the time on TV, was a face, kind of getting a mixed reaction depending where she wrestled. Baker in her hometown, she's the champ, she's going to get cheered. Like you know it. So this is her homecoming, and terrible towels, all that stuff. What's notable about this match was, other than terrible towels, Britt Baker doing her thing in Pittsburgh, which was cool. I'm glad I was there to see that. Um, her action figures where she got the Britsburg gear. So the Britsburg attire, is in an action figure. I get to relive that moment forever. So that's pretty cool that I got to see that. Britt Baker then goes on, it is what it was. She beat Red Velvet, a good match. I think the Rampage dynamic, they always, at first, they always did like the main thing first. They tried to have that lead in, I think, for ratings. And then the main event is like, what? It was always like, why is that the main event? Sometimes they haven't done that. But with that match, it's like, okay, Britt Baker closes the show in her hometown. That's cool. This is also when Jamie Hayter debuts, which is funny because I remember, again, just stuff from the crowd from that moment. One of the guys sitting next to me at the time, Jamie had like reddish hair, orangish hair, and it was like, haha, that's Becky Lynch, Well, okay, and even I was like, who is that? Like, I don't know who that was. I didn't know who it was at first. It was kind of done in a weird fashion. But now Jamie Hayter, the women's champion, and she's a big star. So sometimes, people like to give AEW stuff for not building people, whatever it may be. But Jamie Hayter went from someone saying, "Oh, who is that?" to, well, now she's the women's champion, and a lot of people were clamoring for her to be women's champion too. So Rampage that night, great experience, great time. I loved it. But that brings me to the pops and flops of this episode, and it starts with AEW Collision. So this is a pops and flops, potential flops. Let me say this: potential pops, potential flops of the new AEW Collision deal. Why would I talk about the first Rampage and then Collision? So let me start with the potential. Let me be the positive stuff first. So the potential pops of Collision. First off, let's say that, just if you didn't know, AEW's Saturday show Collision will be 2 hours and will be mostly live, but sometimes there will have to be tapes. Okay. Now I was interested. I was like, what is that? Okay, what does that mean? How many times are they gonna be taped? Because think about Dynamite. Dynamite, other than like the COVID episodes, I don't believe has ever really been taped. Maybe the Jericho Cruise episode, which, by the way, they should 100% do again. I thought that was one of the better episodes of Dynamite. Such a surreal moment. But having said that, okay, mostly live. Well, I looked at the Rampage stats, the date of the first episode, the ratings, the stuff like that, just to prepare for this episode. And Rampage, when it was announced, was supposed to be mostly live with some tapes, which is crazy, and it's so sad. It was meant to be a live 1 hour of wrestling, sometimes, most of the time, and I can't really think of how, like, other than the go home episodes before pay-per-views, how often is AEW Rampage live anymore? So that's a potential flop for me for Collision. Potential positives, pops. It's more wrestling for AEW Collision. It's 2 more hours. We get to see some of our favorite wrestlers. 2 more hours they can build stuff. We get to see returns. We get to see Miro. We get to see Andrade, Thunder Rosa, potentially CM Punk, depending on things, how they're going to work out. It's more opportunity. If we want to see AEW grow, I think, yeah, we need more television. I want AEW to stick around. I think it makes WWE better. I think it makes New Japan better. I think all of these companies, it's better for everyone, even if they don't want to believe so or not. So 2 hours of wrestling, live or taped, that's still a good thing for AEW. I want to point that out. The returns, I mentioned that. Honestly, don't hate the day Saturday. Saturday wrestling, that's not a deal breaker for me. Especially in like the spring and summertime, because sometimes those days like flow together. I mentioned at the start, I'm a teacher, so my summer vacation, heck yeah, like, okay, well, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Saturday, boom, wrestling. So I don't mind that. I think it's good. Um, and again, it's an opportunity for AEW to grow. It's an opportunity for them to grow, and I hope they do. I hope it turns out well for them. Other potential positives. Again, when you think of what it could mean for like ad revenue or streaming deals, and they signed this new thing with Max. Maybe All In is later added, to Max. Maybe they already announced like some of the other programming, like the All Access show is going to be added to Max. Maybe they double down and they're like, all right, we want to build this. We have three shows of this wrestling company, maybe on our streaming service, to bring other people in who might not be watching this on TV. If we have like a live event where 70,000 people are in a stadium going crazy for wrestling, maybe that'll make them want to tune in weekly for Dynamite, Collision, or maybe even still Rampage. So, ultimately, no matter what, even with the potential flops, AEW Collision is a huge deal for AEW, and I hope that it goes well. There are some concerns I do have. I kind of mentioned one already. Rampage started as like a mostly live, sometimes taped thing. Well, now it's mostly taped. Also, Rampage on TNT, the reason they moved Dynamite to TBS was not to interfere with sports as much. Friday Rampage on TNT gets moved all the time. 5:30, 10:30 after basketball, whatever it may be. And then you also have like now Saturdays. There's sports on Saturdays, also on TNT. Does it get moved? What are those the episodes that get taped? What is going to happen with that? That is a concern. Moving the schedule around. If you don't have a set schedule, that's going to hurt viewership. Potential flops. Please don't do a brand split. I know they said that it might not happen with the roster stuff. Just please don't do it. I don't need AEW to do that. They're still a young company, even though they've been around since 2019. Like, you got to build up that. You can't all of a sudden do a brand split. You still have people that are relatively new to the audience. Focus on one. This is just, again, extra time. Don't cut it in half. Don't ruin titles. Don't do that. I don't think that was ever the plan, but I just hope that thought never comes into mind. What does it mean for, again, talent? Like, who is going to be on? Is there going to be a week where Orange Cassidy's on every single show? Is there going to be okay, well, Omega was on Dynamite, and now Punk is on Collision. What, again, kind of with the brand split, I don't want guys who are just set, or gals set just on Dynamite or Collision or Rampage. If I tune into every show, I kind of want to see, like, all right, this is progressing the story. I want to see the stories progress no matter what. Whether it started on Collision and now you're progressing it on Dynamite, same thing, but make it a story show. Like, you have Dynamite Collision 2 hours. That's time you can build stories. I hope they don't just like, all right, this is wrestling and this one is story. No, you gotta focus on the whole thing. So, viewership. I think viewership is something to be concerned of. And to go back and to end on this live, I really, really hope Collision stays with the live broadcasting. Looking again at ratings today, Rampage, which was supposed to be a mostly live show, started with a 0.7 rating. I'm not a big ratings guy, but it's apparent the difference between live and taped. I'm not even going to count the CM Punk, the First Dance episode that got up to over a 1, which some Dynamite episodes haven't even got to recently. But now, Rampage, the 1 hour, just the wrestling, mostly taped. It's like, the 0.2, 0.3, in that area. It's much drastic viewership. So, again, I hope Collision stays live. I hope it doesn't do a lot of taped episodes. Sometimes, yeah, obviously it's going to happen. But still, I hope it stays live. Anyway, positives, some pops, some flops that may occur. Whatever it is, I hope AEW does well. I hope it succeeds. I hope that Collision turns out to just be, just extra hours of great TV. So we shall see. We shall see very soon. But anyway, that's it for me this week. Looking forward to summer. Looking forward to some relaxation. So, if you have any comments, anything shout out, I got anything wrong, anything to say, put it in the comments, por favor. And I will see you guys next time. And don't forget to follow Wrestling Pops. Don't forget to follow the Deep Culture Podcast, on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you can find it, podcast wise. So that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time.